I used to love trains when I was a kid. I'd spend hours over at our local railway station, which wasn't far from where we lived. I'd spend hours on the platform. In the 50s, of course, a lot of steam engines around. Electric trains as well, and diesels were coming in. I think the last steam engine ran on British Rail, as it was then, in 1967. So as a child in the 50s, I was able to see a lot of steam engines. It was fantastic. There was such a thing as a platform ticket. I think it was it a tuppence or threepence or something? You could buy a platform ticket, which allowed you to go onto the platform at the station, and you could spend all day there. You weren't allowed to go on the trains, of course, only on the platform. And I'd go with a couple of friends, and we'd spend half the day, hours there. We'd take sandwiches and watch the steam engines going by. And we had a little notebook. We'd write down the numbers of the engines and the names of them, because a lot of them had names back then. The electric trains all had numbers on, so we'd jot those down. And you'd see an electric train go past. You make a note of the number. It was going up to London, to Victoria. 2 or 3 hours later, it would come back. And you'd see, oh, look, we've got that number already. It's been to Victoria and it's come back. As a child, it was great fun. It might sound a bit boring to adults. Well, not all adults. There are a lot of train enthusiasts around, aren't there? We've got local heritage-type lines, Bluebell Railway, Watercress Line. We go up to the Bluebell quite a lot. It's not far from where we live. They've got a fantastic setup there. Beautiful steam engines, all fully restored. It's a really enjoyable day out, the Bluebell Railway. Of course, as a child, I didn't have to go anywhere like that. They were coming through our local railway station, the steam engines, the goods trains, full of coal, stone. We used to call it the rock train. Come through with a load of trucks, loads of trucks, full of huge rocks. I don't know where they were going. We used to call it the rock or the stone train. And that was pulled by a diesel in the 60s, of course. There was a lot of freight back then. In the, in the 70s, moving ahead a bit, or the 80s, there used to be a diesel coming along, a goods train, with a load of sort of flatbed trucks full of Ford Transit vans. I think they came from Southampton or somewhere where they made them. And you'd see hundreds of, it looked quite odd, hundreds of white Ford Transit vans going past. At one house we had, the railway was at the bottom of the garden. That was brilliant. My son would stand down there with me. We'd watch the Ford Transits going past. And the tankers, big tankers, probably full of petrol. There was a line-side fire or a track-side fire once. And the tanker train, the chap stopped the engine not far from our back garden. And he looked at the fire and he wouldn't pass it because he had all these tankers full of petrol. And he wouldn't pass the fire until it had been put out. So that was all quite exciting to watch. The old steam engines, they often caused fires in the summer because sparks would come flying out of the funnel, land on the dry grass either side of the track, and set fire to it. Trackside or line-side fires weren't at all uncommon back then. That was great to watch as well as kids. We used to love that. Oh, look, there's a fire. And of course, they'd get someone either from the station, or the driver would get off the train, or his mate, the fireman, and he'd beat the fire out. Sometimes they'd call the fire brigade. If it was a big fire, of course, if it had really caught hold, then they'd have to call the fire brigade to put it out. There was always something going on the railway. A lot of freight trains, a lot of steam engines, diesels, electric trains. There was always something happening, something to watch. Of course, trains would break down. They do these days, but not so often as they did back then. You'd have a train break down. They'd send out a diesel to pick it up. The diesel would hook onto it and drag it off somewhere. All the passengers would have to get off at the next station. And then the diesel would take it somewhere to be repaired. At Lancing, we had what they called Lancing Carriage Works, where they fitted metal tyres onto the wheels, They'd heat them up till they're glowing red, stick them over, that was to expand it, stick them over the wheel, bash them on with sledgehammers, chuck the whole thing in a big thing of water. Great fun to watch. And they had the steam engines there. They had open days at Lancing Carriage Works. It's all gone now, of course. Just by Worthing Central Station, there was a goods yard, a siding, with things going on there. We had engine sheds at West Worthing. That was fantastic. And of course, as I've said, as a child, this was all brilliant fun. I remember one winter, there was a lot of sparks going on at the end of the garden, so I went down to have a look. It was night time, cold winter, very cold, icy, frosty night. There's snow everywhere. And down here, the Southern Railway, we don't have overhead wires. There's a third rail, a conductor rail they call it, and there are metal shoes that run on the rail to pick up the electricity. The return is through the wheels to the running rails, which are then earthed. So that's the return circuit. And what happened was, in the winter, the train was coming out of the station and having a lot of trouble picking up the juice because it's all covered in ice and there's sparks and arcing going on like mad. Absolutely brilliant to watch. This is sort of 4 yards away from me. I'm at the end of the garden looking over the fence, not even 4, perhaps 3 yards. This fantastic arcing going on. The train, he couldn't move it. And eventually what happened was the metal shoe that was right near me welded itself to the conductor rail. It's arc welding, isn't it? Like they do with car repairs. The metal shoe with the arcing had got so hot, melted itself and the rail and welded itself. We had to go out that evening, so I couldn't stay and watch, unfortunately. But they were bashing it with a sledgehammer. They turned the power off, of course, and they were bashing this metal shoe with a sledgehammer. Presumably they got it off. I had a look the next day, and you could see that someone had come along with a grinder, and the top of the conductor rail had been sort of ground smooth because it was all molten metal on it, I suppose. So that was great fun, watching the sparks and the arcing. Many years ago, a friend of mine was a train driver, and he said, "Do you want to come up to Victoria and back in the front, up the cab with me?" And I said, "Well, yeah, excellent. I mean, I wouldn't turn that chance down, against all the regulations, of course," but he didn't seem to care. He said, "OK, stay on your local station." He gave me a time, early evening. He said, "Get a ticket or something to the next stop so you can at least get on the train, with a ticket." And he said, "Get up the very front and then I'll let you into the cab because there's a door that's locked." And I got on the train. He unlocked the door and I went and sat in the front with him because there are 2 seats on the electric trains, aren't there? 2 seats up the front. And I sat there. He said, "Whenever we get into a station or we pass a signal box," because I'm going back years, there were signal boxes then, there aren't now. He said, "Get down on the floor so no one sees you." And I did. We pulled into a station and I got down on the floor. It was fantastic. It really was an amazing trip all the way up to Victoria, through Clayton Tunnel. That's a long tunnel. That was lovely. I just enjoyed it immensely. When we got to Victoria, he said, "Oh no, we got platform 19. I didn't know what that meant, but he said, "Well, what it is, we've got to walk a long way from the train to the office." What happened was, because obviously I couldn't go into the office, I wasn't a driver, he gave me his lamp, his railway lamp. So we walked together towards the offices. Then he took his lamp back. He said, "Look, just hang around here." He said, "I'm going to be about an hour, then we're going back." So I hung around and I had a cup of coffee and whatever I did. Then I met him again. I got back on the train. He let me in the front and we came back all the way back down here to the coast. It was amazing. As we went into one of the tunnels, he said that he took a friend of his on a while ago and his friend hated it. He got out at the next station after the tunnel because when you go into the tunnel, he said that when you were doing 100 miles an hour into this tunnel, bang, it really was a bang as the air, the train's like a piston in the tunnel. And he said this friend of his, he was just terrified, couldn't stand it. And he said, "Are you all right?" I said, "Yeah, I love it. Go faster." It wouldn't go any faster than 100. By this time, it was 11 o'clock at night, I suppose, something like that, 10:30, 11. And when we got back, we went in, he'd finished his shift. He drove the train into the engine sheds that we had at West Worthing. And he turned everything off and we walked back to his car and he dropped me at home. Fantastic evening. I'll never forget that. I'd always wanted to go up the front in the cab and I'd actually done it, coming back through one of the tunnels. I think it was the Clayton Tunnel. He said, "As we come round the curve, you'll see on the rails the green light reflecting." He said, "It's quite useful. It's a signal round the curve, round a bend, reflecting on the rails. He said, so I know it's green before I can even see the signal. And we saw it. I saw that, and I thought that was fantastic. Happy days indeed. Now, there's something you don't know. Today's date is the 28th of April. No, it's not. You're thinking, no, it's not. It's Sunday, the 19th of May. Yes, you're right. This is when this episode will be published, Sunday, the 19th of May. And I'm in the Isle of Wight. I will be back tomorrow, Monday, the 20th of May. So today is Sunday, the 28th of April. And I'm having to record this early because obviously I'm in the Isle of Wight for a week, going away on the 13th. And I won't be here to record it. So you never know, while I'm in the Isle of Wight, today, Sunday, might be the day that we go on the Haven Street Railway. Look that up on the Isle of Wight, Haven Street, where they've got the steam engines, the trains, all sorts going on there. And whenever we go to the island, we go on a steam-drawn train. So I might be sitting on the steam-drawn train while you are listening to me talking about trains. Anyway, there you are. I'm now hoping today, 2 weeks before we go to the island, that the weather is going to buck up a bit. This is ridiculous now. It's just awful. It is so cold out there. I don't know what's happened. We've got this wind. It's cold. It's dull. It's been pouring with rain again. I'm just hoping that a couple of weeks from now, what's that, Monday the 13th, that the sun will come out. If the weather's like this on the island, it's going to be miserable. We'll have to take hats, scarves, gloves, coats, winter jumpers, fur-lined boots. No, seriously, if it's like this, it's going to be awful. I shall be chatting about the holiday once we're back, of course. So hopefully I'll be saying, Struth, it was hot. Stone the crows. I was sweltering. We shall see. I've just been looking on the webcam, the various webcams around the Isle of Wight. And you can look at from the island, across the Solent to the mainland. You can see the Spinnaker Tower. And the sea is horrible. It's dull. It's windy. Honestly, it looks like winter. Back to railways again. And there used to be a line from Shoreham, look it up on the map, Shoreham by Sea, between where I am and Brighton, Shoreham to Horsham. We called it the Steyning line because it went through Steyning. I don't know why it wasn't called the Horsham line. Other people called it the Ada Valley line. Anyway, it opened in 1861. I've just looked it up, 1861. It was about 20 miles long. There was a branch off that little branch line to Beeding Cement Works. Does anyone locally remember Beeding Cement Works? It's still there, but it's not a cement works anymore. I don't know what it is. I think it's a haulage company, park their lorries there or something. They closed the line in 1966. Now, I went on that. Steam engine, couple of coaches. We went up to, where did we go to? I think we went to Steyning and back. Because it was such a lovely little line. It ran alongside the River Ada for most of its journey to Horsham. Or was that to Steyning? I can't remember. It did deviate away from the river a little bit at some stage, probably just past Steyning. It was beautiful, a lovely line going up by the river. But of course, in 1966, along came Dr. Beeching. Oh, we can't have this. Oh, it's a waste of money. Close that. I think now it's a footpath or a cycle path. It's just a track. I did look at it years ago. I had a look at it and the railway lines have gone and it's just a sort of walkway really, a nice walk. I don't know whether it's a bridle path. Probably get horses there as well because obviously it's quite wide. But it's such a shame that it's gone. 1861. I mean, why close it? Isn't that a shame? To be fair to Dr. Beeching, I think he was an engineer. He was chairman of British Rail, wasn't he? I don't know what he was. He was closing down lines that weren't profitable. They weren't even paying for themselves, let alone making a profit. So if you've got a little village somewhere 5 miles off the main line, you take a branch line to it, you might bring 6 people from that village to the main line and to a town in the morning and take those same 6 people back early evening, late afternoon if they've been to work. You do that twice a day. You've got the steam engine to run. You've got the fireman, the driver. You've also got the station staff, the electricity bill for the station. There's signalling. There's track maintenance. All this must add up for what? To take half a dozen people to work and back each day. It's not profitable. I would have thought it would have been a better idea to keep the line going and pay for it out of more profitable journeys somewhere else in the country, because it was all nationalised, British Rail. Closed some of them possibly if they were underused or not used at all, but I don't know, where do you draw the line? He closed, I think it was thousands of miles of track. That's something else I must look up. He did. He closed hundreds, if not thousands of miles of track, stations, all that business, all gone. And the trouble is you can't get it back again. Having said that, I believe they've reopened some lines that were closed in 66. Of course, the freight as well, a lot of that's gone. The Beading Cement Works, that's closed down. Why has that closed down? Perhaps they ran out of whatever it was they're quarrying, they're digging. What do they dig? How do you make cement? Is it lime or something? I don't know. Perhaps they ran out of that. I used to see the chimney. You could see it from Worthing here, the chimney. Huge, tall chimney, smoking, all this white smoke coming out. And that was Beading Cement Works. It was a landmark. I believe the chimney is still there. That's something else I must check. Next time I'm going over the flyover, the River Ader, towards Shore and Brighton, I'll have a look, because you can see the cement works from there. Talking to people of my age, you'll say, do you remember this? Oh, I remember. Yes, of course, that's gone now, hasn't it? Do you remember that? Oh, I remember that. Yes, that was up by so-and-so, wasn't it? Of course, all that's gone now. All that's been pulled down. That's all closed now. Whatever anyone mentions about the past is gone. Pubs have gone. The cement works have gone. The branch lines have gone. West Worthing engine sheds. Worthing goods yard. Lancing carriage works. The big houses in town. All gone. They're blocks of flats now instead of the houses. Everything's gone. The lovely lake in Homefield Park. There was a beautiful lake before my time. That's gone. They filled it in. Beautiful pond at Half Moon Lane. That's gone. There were ponds everywhere. They've all gone. And of course you can't get them back. You can't suddenly you can make a lake again in the park, but it's going to take years, isn't it, before it gets full of wildlife and the reeds and the bushes, everything grow, the fish. The more I think about it, the more anyone of my age I chat to, and you ask them, do you remember this? Or they'll say, do you remember that? Yes, I do. We all remember, but it's gone. One of these days, if I get time, I'll have to make a list. I'll need a ream of A4 paper. Make a list of all the things I remember, because I've lived around here since the 50s. The pubs, schools have closed, woodlands gone, all sorts of things. I'll have to make a list of everything that has gone, all the things we've lost for good. Perhaps I won't, because it'll make rather depressing reading. I wouldn't mind betting that those of you listening to this who are in the UK, you're thinking, oh yes, same with my town. I remember this, I remember that, cinema's gone, that's gone, this has gone, everything's gone. What's replaced it all? Well, the railway sidings have gone. There's nothing to replace. Oh, actually, yes, they've built some flats. Oh, the goods yard near me, that's now a car park. Car park. Lovely. I used to sit on a farm gate right by the railway. It was sort of farm crossing for tractors to go across. And I'd sit on the farm gate watching the trains. Now, there were wires, because they were the old semaphore signals, you know, and when the wire went one way, you know, the signal was being hauled up, so there was a train coming. When it went the other way, the signal was going down. So I knew when a train was coming. That was in the late 50s, early 60s, so a lot of the trains were electric and a lot were steam. There was still a lot of steam around. And of course, yes, the drivers did blow the whistle and wave as they went by, which was fantastic. It was amazing just to sit there and watch these huge steam engines go racing past. Fantastic days. As a kid, you know, you can imagine, can't you? It was just amazing. A few yards back from the farm gate was a sort of rubbish dump. I suppose the farmer dumped his rubbish there and then disposed of it wherever and whenever. And I was poking around there, as you do as a kid. I was poking around the rubbish dump and I found a telephone. You know, it's a wooden box, the old type of wooden box that you have on the wall, with the generator handle on the side, so you wind that to ring the other end. You pick up the receiver part, put it to your ear, and speak in the mouthpiece on the front of the wooden box. That was old. That was old then. This is late 50s, and it was on the rubbish tip. So that was, I don't know when that was, 20s, 30s, previous to that possibly. I took it home, and of course I pulled it to bits. I took everything to bits back then. Kids did that, didn't they? I was interested in what made things tick. I took it to bits. Now, a telephone like that, on eBay is a huge amount of money. Poking around farms was something I really enjoyed as a child because I liked the countryside, I liked animals, I liked all of it. And one or two of the farmers local to where I lived, I got to know them and they were okay, as long as I didn't muck up their crops, run through the cornfield and wreck the crops. They were fine, they were fine with us kids going over there, and they taught us a lot. One farmer there, he was telling me all about electric fence and how it worked, because being into electrical stuff, even at a young age, I was into electrical things, all things electrical and mechanical, and he told me all about the electric fence. And of course he said, touch the wire and see what happens, which I did. That was funny. And he was explaining how it's just a pulse now and then, and it doesn't do any harm to the animals. It just makes them jump and they won't go near it again. He also showed us round his tractor, which was interesting. But of course, along with everything else, along with pubs and old houses and old buildings and old everything, farms, they've gone. Well, not completely from the country, but they've gone from locally. That was just amazing. I don't know what kids these days, what do they do? I mean, apart from phones, iPads, Xbox or whatever they call them and watching TV all the time, what do they do? Farms were so interesting to see the animals, learn about the animals, learn about the countryside. I love that old programme with Jack Hargreaves. I know I've banged on about this before, but I shall bang on about it again. Why not? Jack Hargreaves, Out of Town. I just love that. It's fantastic. All about the countryside, fishing, the animals, flowers even, how to make hedges and just everything to do with the countryside. It's an amazing programme. And of course, it's still available. It's on YouTube and Talking Pictures TV. It's on there. Jack Hargreaves, Out of Town. Have a look on there. I know I go on about the old days of TV where, you had to wait to watch your programme at 7 o'clock Monday evening. And if you missed it, hard luck. You couldn't record it. You couldn't see that one again. That episode is gone. You wait till the next Monday evening, 7 o'clock for the next episode. Whereas now we can watch, I don't know about everything from the 50s and 60s, but a lot of it is on telly, it's on YouTube, it's on whatever, Talking Pictures TV, Stingray, Thunderbirds, all this stuff is still available, which I think that's amazing, that it really is good. Something else I'm always banging on about is Amberley Museum, isn't it? That's interesting. Any working museum where they're doing things as they did back in the old days. There used to be a railway line to Amberley Museum from the main line, because there's a station at Amberley which is right outside the museum. I think where does that go? That goes to Horsham and up to London, I believe, from somewhere. Where's it go from? Littlehampton? The railway used to have a branch. There's a huge piece of land, which is now a car park, and it used to have a branch line coming off the main line there into the museum. When it was the chalk pits, that's where they made lime. And of course the trains would come in and out. Steam engines would come in and out with all the trucks, collecting the chalk and the lime and whatever else they did. And the line's still there. Well, some of it is still there. Just a little bit of it. It's only a few yards, but they've left the rails down. There were branch lines everywhere, going off here, going off there to goods yards and various places. Whereas now it's all by road, isn't it? Well, the majority of it, I don't know, let's pull a figure out of the air. 90% of it is by road. I don't know how much freight there is on the railway these days. Actually, at Amberley, there's more than a few yards of line. I'm just thinking into the museum itself, there is the railway. There's quite a few, 200 yards or more of the actual railway. Then they've got the miniature railway that goes all round the outside of the museum area. And that was used to take chalk, from where they're digging the chalk to where they're making the lime in the big kilns. All the kilns are still there, huge kilns, which they had to fill with chalk and coal in layers, I believe. Layer of chalk, layer of coal, layer of chalk, layer of coal. Set fire to the whole thing. I've seen that done on telly in one of the old farm programmes, or what was it, Victorian farm, Edwardian farm, whatever. And they actually made some lime. And that's dangerous stuff. Is it quicklime, they call it? You get some lime and put some water on it, and it fizzes and sort of burns and gets red hot. So you've got to be very careful with that stuff. Anyone of my age, or well, not necessarily as old as me, but younger even, will remember telegraph poles, especially not only in the streets, along the railway track. Pole after pole after pole carrying hundreds of foam wires. That was amazing. That's all gone. I used to love the telegraph poles. I don't know why I loved them. It was just brilliant to see all those wires. I remember sitting there watching the trains and looking at the wires and thinking, there's people all talking through those. Someone in wherever, Bognor, talking to someone in London. Someone in Scotland talking to someone in Brighton. It was just amazing, all the wires, because that's all gone now. Everything's underground, isn't it? Back in the old days, breweries had their own lines, from the main line again, going into their yard, their brewery yard, to take all the beer barrels, to transport them to wherever they were going. And I believe that they had their own line connected to the main line, but that was theirs, the line and everything. Is that right? Am I wrong there? They had to look after that? They had to pay for it, presumably. I don't suppose British Rail would stick a branch line somewhere for nothing, just so you can transport your beer. I don't know. A lot of places, not only breweries, other places that were dealing with a lot of stuff that needed moving around the country, like down in Cornwall, Devon, down the West Country. Once the railway got down there, it increased their trade hugely. They were able to sell their local fish or whatever they got down there, and tin, because Cornwall was known for tin mining, wasn't it? Instead of having to transport it by horse and cart for hundreds of miles, what if you want to get your tin up to Scotland or just to London even? How do you do it? Once the railway was there, that's it. Of course, what that did do was create competition, because for example, you're selling whatever. You're selling fish, for example, that you've got straight out of the English Channel. You're a fishing port, and you're putting that on the railway. It's going off to, not Billingsgate, is it? What's the fish place, the fish market? And of course, once the trains came along, the fish market isn't only getting your fish, it's getting everyone else's from Scotland and the West Coast, the East Coast. So there's competition. Whereas before that, you could only take your fish, you couldn't take it far, could you? It would go off. Even if they had it put on ice, it would go off. You can't have a horse and cart from Land's End to London. By the time you get the fish there, the ice would have melted, the fish would have rotted. So the railways really did open up the entire country. I remember hearing something about, is it Fair Isle jumpers from up north? Fur Isle wool. How do you say it? I forgot. Fair Isle, isn't it? The jumpers that fishermen wear. Well, that wool came from Scotland, Fair Isle Islands or whatever. Once the railways came along, you could buy that down here on the coast. You could buy it anywhere because the railway would take it. Whereas before, how do you get it from Scotland to here? Again, a horse and cart. Or by boat, of course. I suppose they had the coastal boats, didn't they, that went round. And I saw a documentary only the other day actually, quite interesting, back in the 50s, I think mid-50s, where they were taking cars on trains. You drive, well, no, you didn't. Someone working there, the porter or what do they call them? I don't know, the railway people. They would drive your car onto the train, and then you go and sit in the passenger coaches. And when you get the other end, it's a sleeper, that's right. You've got your bed and your little wash basin and all that. So you could go from, say, Brighton up to Scotland on the overnight sleeper, take your car with you. Is that still possible? Do they take cars from down here to Scotland? I don't know. Because these days you drive through you go on the train through the Channel Tunnel, or you can go on the ferry if you're going abroad. And they also put cars on aeroplanes. I don't think you can do that now. Can I take my car to Spain on an aeroplane? No, I don't think so. That would be daft now anyway. If I want to go to Spain and I want a car, you hire one when you get there, don't you? You don't have to take your own car unless you drive down there. I know people that have driven down, they get the ferry across to France, drive all the way down through France, through Spain, wherever you like. It must be quite good. Quite a nice holiday. I don't think I'd want to drive all that way at my age, though. Bad enough driving to the Isle of Wight. Oh, dear. Happy days. I heard on the news the other day someone was saying about the railways because they're on strike. So often now, these days, people are getting used to it, making other arrangements, not using the railway. You can't use it when they're on strike. They've made other arrangements and don't go back to the railway. Even when it's running, they're not going back to it. They've made their other arrangements, which are working well, and they stick to that. And they were saying that the people on strike really are shooting themselves in the foot, because if they're going to lose a lot of passengers, that's a lot of money, then there'll be less money for increase in wages. Where do you stop? It's a difficult one, isn't it? I don't think they're only striking for more money. It's working conditions, isn't it? But the more they strike, the more passengers they lose, the more money they lose, the less money there is for wages. I don't know. It's a difficult one, that. Trisha's sister and her husband, they hop on trains all over the place. They'll pop over to Brighton, they go down to Bognor, up to Amberley. I love train journeys, but not so much these days because there's a lot of engineering works. They're late, they're cancelled, there's all sorts going on. I know the roads are horrendous, but I'd rather take the car because then I'm kind of my own boss, aren't I? Go where I want, when I want, rather than have to rely on the railway, which, sad to say, is not at all reliable these days. Anyway, I'm in the Isle of Wight. What is the weather doing? It's now, where's the date? Here we are, 6th of May, moved on a bit. I'm doing this in stages as I build up to the Isle of Wight holiday. So when you hear this, I will actually be on the island. The weather at the moment, we just had a beautiful day. When was it? Saturday? Sunshine, blue sky, no wind. It was hot. I was in the garden in my shorts and T-shirt and I got too hot. I had to go and sit in the shade. It was wonderful. Now, Bank Holiday Monday, May the 6th, it's pouring with rain. It's been raining all day. We drove up to Gatwick this morning. I think I told you the other day, didn't I? Took number one daughter and her hubby up to Gatwick Airport. They're off to Germany for some Disney thing or whatever it is. And it was slashing with rain all the way there and all the way back. And it's non-stop today. So 1 minute I'm in the garden in my shorts and I'm too hot. Next minute I'm indoors with my jacket on. You just don't know what to do. We were saying the other day, what are we going to take to the Isle of Wight in the way of clothes? Do we take hats, gloves, scarves, coats, balaclava, winter fur-lined boots, skis? No, not skis. We didn't say skis. Or summer clothes, or both, I suppose. That's the trouble. We've got to load up the car with lots of different clothes. It'll be fine. I'm sure it will be fine. We'll be on the Haven Street Railway. We're going to Yarmouth. We're going to the Needles. We're going to Osborne House. That's lovely. Have you been to Osborne House? Queen Victoria's favourite retreat. I don't think it was her retreat. Yes, it was, I believe. She was a lovely lady, Queen Victoria. I always thought, from what I've heard, that she was miserable. We are not amused. Do you remember that? You heard that saying? We are not amused. No one can make her smile. She was miserable. But it seems not. It seems that from the documentaries I've seen and speaking to the people, the volunteers there that show you around the house, Osborne House, she was quite the nymphomaniac. Perhaps that's the wrong word to use, but her and her husband, Albert, enjoyed a full and sex life. They've got pictures of nudes all over the place, lovely paintings of naked people all over the place, especially in their bedroom area. She had her own bath and a shower thing. So, yes, they quite enjoyed their whatever. Anyway, we better move on from that. The garden's lovely, by the way. The garden is really nice there. And then there's what do they call it? The Swiss cottage, the Swiss place. It's a big Wendy house for the children. And I call it a Wendy house. I mean, it's huge. There's a kitchen in there. It's down in the grounds. It's quite away from the main house, which is a good idea, isn't it? Get rid of your kids. Nanny, can you take all this lot down to what's it called? Is it the Swiss cottage? Because there's a pub in Shoreham called the Swiss cottage. I'll find out in a minute and let you know. So you say, Nanny, can you get all the kids down there and keep them there for a week so we can have a bit of peace? Apparently Queen Victoria had a special lock on the inside of her bedroom door so she couldn't be disturbed by the children when her and her husband were having a cuddle, put it that way. A special lock. Here we are, the Swiss cottage, hidden in the woods at Osborne, Well away from the main house is a little Alpine-style chalet with its own gardens and museum. This was the royal children's private world where they could play at being adults and learn the skills that Prince Albert believed would make them better. So it is called the Swiss Cottage. I don't know whether they slept there. Are there bedrooms there? Do you know, I can't remember. There's a place where there's a kitchen, there's a dining room because they've got their little chairs there, all the little original chairs for the children. Fantastic. If ever you're in the Isle of Wight, do go to Osborne House. It's well worth a visit. If you're into that sort of thing, of course, which we are, luckily. Fortunately, Tricia and I both like the same things. Well, not quite. I like Jimi Hendrix and she likes the Bay City Rollers. I like proper music, you see. She doesn't appreciate proper music. It's right, she's not listening. She's downstairs with daughter number 3. They're having a chat. So I'm up here in the high-tech studio having a chat with you, which I enjoy immensely. As you know, I've been doing this 5 years now. Over 5 years. I wonder whether I'll be saying, I've been doing this 10 years now. I'll be a bit dithery by the doddery. Hey, 10 years. What am I doing? What am I talking about? Do you know, I don't know what I'm talking about half the time now, let alone in 5 years' time. I'm still having trouble with my tape recorder. Damn it. It won't rewind. The reel-to-reel Tandberg I've got. It won't rewind. It plays, it does fast forward, but it won't rewind, and I can't get the clutch thing right. Anyway, there we are. That'll keep me busy for the rest of the year, no doubt. I want to get it back together because it's in bits all over my table over there. I've been playing some of the old tapes. They're fantastic. Loads of old tapes from the 70s and even the late 60s. Tony Blackburn's show on Radio 1. Some pirate radio stuff. Pick of the Pops on a Sunday afternoon with Alan Freeman. Great stuff. It does play. It's just that I can't rewind. If I want to go back to the beginning, I have to take the tape off, turn it over, fast forward, take the tape off, turn it over, and I'm back to where I wanted to be. So it's a palaver, but it hasn't sort of totally stopped me using the machine. I just want to get it right. Just going back to railways briefly, I won't bore you because I've been on about railways for the last, 40 minutes. Basically, on the Isle of Wight, there is a main line railway, not much of it, well, it's only a small island. There's a main line railway, and the trains are the old underground trains from London. The old tube trains, you remember the red ones? The very old ones. They've got the old tube trains there. They're not underground on the island, they are overground trains, and we've never been on them. Every time we go, we say, we must go on those trains, and we never do. I went as a kid on, which pier is it? I always get confused. Ryde Pier, is it? You take the boat to the end of the pier, you get on a steam engine train. People call them steam trains, don't they? That is incorrect. It's a steam pulled train or steam hauled train. I'm bashing my table around. I'm getting excited here. I'm waving my arms around. Is it Magnus Pike? Not Magnuson. I always get that confused. Isn't it awful? You could get the steam hauled train from the end of the pier right across the island. And in fact, one of Tricia's dad's friends, Tricia's dad, as you know, was an engine driver. One of his friends was the steam engine, or one of the steam engine drivers on the Isle of Wight, going way, way back to the 50s. When they closed down, or not closed down the railway, when they got rid of steam there, he moved here. He lives not far from us, 5 miles away. Oh, no, he doesn't. He's moved. He moved years ago up to Horsham. I don't know where he lives, do I? Anyway, he was a steam engine driver on the Isle of Wight, way back when. I believe he's 95 now. Someone said the other day, 95, still going strong. He's had some stories to tell over the years. So has Tricia's dad. Sadly, he's passed away now, her dad. Would have been great to have a chat with him on the podcast, wouldn't it? About the old days of steam engines and then going on to diesels and the more modern electric trains. That would have been interesting, but sadly that's not to be. I interrupt this programme to bring you an email. Hello, Eleanor. How are you? Not Eleanor Rigby, she says in her email. Everyone calls her Eleanor Rigby. The Beatles song, do you remember that? She says, I'm not Eleanor Rigby. I must admit, Eleanor, I would have commented. I would have said, are you Eleanor Rigby? So that's naughty. Anyway, she says, I was talking a couple of weeks ago about the bottom drawer. You know, when you get married, you put things into your bottom drawer ready for when you move into your new house or flat or whatever. You collect things for your new home. She says, that inspired me to contact you because I'm getting married soon. Well, congratulations, Eleanor. Well done. And she's put, I love this. She's put, now here's the thing. Well done, Eleanor. Now here's the thing. Makes me laugh reading that. You obviously listen to quite a few of my podcast episodes. Here's the thing. Why is it so expensive to get married these days? She says her friends have been married abroad, Mexico. They spend tens of thousands of pounds on going abroad and hiring this and hiring that. All this money. She says, I just can't afford it. I know exactly what you mean, Eleanor. I've known people go abroad. They spend tens of thousands on reception and flights and hotels and I don't know. In my day, you get married either at your local church or at the registry office. In fact, Eleanor is asking, this is the point of her email, what was it like in your day? Back when I was a boy, well, I wasn't married when I was a boy, not a young boy anyway. It was easy back then, Eleanor. People didn't go abroad. They didn't go to Mexico. They didn't spend tens of thousands of pounds. You either had a church wedding or a registry office wedding. Now, that's what Eleanor is going to do. The problem is, she says, she feels bad because one or two of her friends, it seems, have said, oh, is that all you're doing? Oh, you're not going to Mexico then? Oh, is it just the registry office in town? Her dad is a member of a local club and there's a function room and he is going to hire the function room for the wedding reception. Nothing wrong with that, Eleanor. Our local club, upstairs they have a function room. There's a bar and it's a nice big room. There are tables and chairs. That's where we had Trisha's birthday party a couple of years ago, her 60th. And it was lovely. We took our own food. So we did all the food, all the family joined in doing the food. We hired a local band. So we had a live band there, which was great. To hire the room, I think, was 40 quid for the night. There's someone behind the bar serving the drinks. It was fantastic. You don't need to spend tens of thousands on a reception. But as Eleanor has said, she's feeling bad now because some of her friends are, is that it then? Oh, registry office. Oh, function room at a club. Oh, is that it? I wouldn't take any notice of them, Eleanor. If you want to get married, just do it. It is obviously your big day when you get married. You want a big, memorable day, don't you? So I do see the point where some people are saying, oh, well, you really should have a decent wedding. It's only once in a lifetime. Well, for some people, it's more than once. That is true. If you can afford it, yes. But you also have to bear in mind, if you're having your wedding in Mexico, for example, you can afford it. You've got plenty of money. That's fine. So you head off to Mexico. What about your guests? Can they all afford to fly out to Mexico to hire hotel rooms, Can they all afford to spend thousands on that? I would imagine some of them can't, unless all your friends are rich. How can they do it? A lot of people wouldn't be able to go, and a lot of people would feel sad about that. They've missed your wedding. They couldn't go to your wedding. They can't afford it. The wedding itself is signing the register, isn't it? It's just signing the book, and then you're told you're married at the registry office, for example. Once you're married, do it at the registry office, then you're married. Then you can go and have your reception wherever. You might have one member of the family with a fairly large house or a big garden. If it's the summertime, a big garden. Have the reception there. You don't even have to hire anywhere. You can do it at minimal cost. Anyway, congratulations, Eleanor. You haven't said when you're getting married, but I hope you have a long and happy marriage and lots of children. Well, not too many. Lovely to hear from you. If anyone else wants to say anything, raise rants@protonmail.com. Where did you get married? Did you get married? Let me know what your thoughts are on spending tens of thousands of pounds on just one day. I expect you're all looking forward to me getting back from the Isle of Wight with my little outside broadcast type recorder because I will have recordings to play to you from the island. Oh no, that's all we need. You're thinking, yes, I shall record the steam engine at Haven Street. The steam engine making noises and whistling and things. No, seriously, I will take it with me, the little recorder. But I will only record worthwhile things. I won't record the birds singing in the woods. I've done that before. Having said that, a lot of you did like that. I remember at the time a lot of you messaged me and said, oh, I love hearing the birds in the woods. Someone on the radio the other day said that listening to bird song is extremely good for you. Not physically, I mean mentally. Obviously it doesn't do much physically for you. It's very good for you. I love waking up in the morning, have the window open at night in the summer in the bedroom, the window's open. 4 o'clock in the morning, that's normally when I wake up. The dawn chorus begins. You can hear the birds singing and it's absolutely wonderful. I love it. And I think it's a good start to the day, waking up to something like that, rather than putting the news on the telly or the radio and hearing all the depressing things that are going on around the world, or blasting music out from your local radio station where DJs shouting and adverts that shout at you. Listen to the bird song when you wake up. Okay, I think that's enough for today. I shall leave you with the lovely sound of the birds singing. Keep well, look after yourselves, and I shall say again, I hope where I am at the moment in the Isle of Wight is a nice sunny day. Keep an eye on the weather forecast. Have a look at the Isle of Wight, wherever you are in the world. Have a look at the weather forecast there. If it's pouring with rain, it'll give you a little chuckle. Okay, I shall see you on Wednesday, of course, with the midweek message. Oh, that reminds me, I must make a little list of the things I'm taking to the island. Going to take some of my little handheld radios. One to listen to the ships. A lot of shipping around the Solent, of course, Southampton and all that lot. Another radio to listen to the aircraft. Anyway, I won't bore you with all that. I take half a dozen radios with me. Some so I can talk to friends back here in my hometown. Others to listen to various things going on the island. That's enough from me. Thank you for enduring, 46, 47 minutes, not quite an hour again. I never seem to make the hour, do I? Raise rants at protonmail.com. Look after yourselves. Lovely talking to you as always. See you on Wednesday. Bye-bye for now.